Alright kids, the month of July is a difficult time for a lot of sports fans in America, especially if you're a fan of major team sports. The NBA Finals ended weeks ago, the NFL is weeks away, and not that I'm a huge fan of hockey, but my Columbus Blue Jackets didn't even make the Stanley Cup playoffs, so the NHL didn't hold me over through the spring into June. As of me writing this, baseball was taking a break from its season in order to focus on the All-Star Game, the Summer Classic, and I was missing sports so much that I watched the MLB Home Run Derby and a few innings of the All-Star Game, even though I really don't watch baseball. I really don't like baseball either, which is what we're going to talk about today. To me, much more intriguing than anything that happened between the Home Run Derby, the All-Star Game, and the Celebrity All-Star Game for that matter, was when six-time All-Star, two-time World Champion, one-time MVP Mookie Betts, uber-talented right fielder for the Los Angeles Dodgers, wore a shirt which said, "We need more black people at the stadium." For obvious reasons, black players represented only 7.2% of all MLB players at the start of the current season. 1981, 2 years before I was born, had the highest percentage of black players at 18.7%. The 1981 All-Star Game had a total of 63 players and there were 14 black All-Stars, or 22%. With that said, let's focus on why that is. Why don't black people play baseball or watch baseball? Why aren't more black people at the stadium? And I want to start with the neighborhood I grew up in order to explain why I wasn't interested in any weapon sport, let alone baseball. I think this perspective will apply to most black people, not to generalize too much. By the way, if you're wondering, weapon sports are those that require, well, what would be a tool in other neighborhoods but considered a weapon in mine? We're talking lacrosse, tennis, hockey, golf, and of course, baseball. Coincidentally, sports that black people at large don't pay much attention to. Don't be one of those people who are like, technically, the ball could be used as a weapon. Does that count? Fighters use their hands and feet. Are those weapons? You know what I mean. Anyways, my hood was overwhelmingly black and all of us wanted to be athletes. But yeah, we played baseball. Well, a variation of it, kind of like wiffle ball. We used an aluminum bat and tennis balls, mostly because we played in a shared space behind the townhouses we lived in, which had sliding, all glass back doors, and an actual baseball would easily break those upon impact. However, since we used tennis balls, we didn't need mitts to catch the ball. Not that we could afford them, but more on that in a minute. Anyways, our bases were just random strategic things we found in our environment. For instance, in a field not too far from my place, we used a house's 100% cement back porch as first base, a random, conveniently located flat rock in the ground as second base, and a play tunnel as third base. So, instead of a teammate playing those bases from the field on defense, we would just throw a player out by hitting the porch or the tunnel with the ball before the runner got there. Second base was a little more tricky, but one of us would have to stand on base like typical baseball. Also, playing with tennis balls, we could just hit a player with the ball anytime they were off base and they would be out. Now, we played baseball in gym during school, and from time to time I played organized sandlot baseball at my local rec center. It used to be called Northeast, but it's Howard Community Rec Center now. Oh yeah, my first plate appearance, I doubled, and I also played right field, but that was it. I had no desire to play baseball for my school or some traveling team or to be the next MLB star. But at this time, Ken Griffey Jr. was everything. He was baseball. He's what they call in the business a five-tool player. He could hit for power, hit for average, run bases, throw, and field really well. The smile, the swing, the backwards hat, the shoes. The shoes. One year when I was like 10 or 11, I remember a team's manager, turns out it was Buck Showalter, who said, "A guy like Ken Griffey Jr., the game is boring to him. He comes on the field and his hat's on backwards and his shirt tail's hanging out." Wearing your hat backwards is a problem? We all wore our hats backwards. Isn't that the name of a TLC song? Now, Griffey told ESPN later that the backwards cap thing wasn't a style thing. It was because of his dad. But this backwards hat take was another indication to me that baseball was boring and white. Look, right around the same time, Aaron Turner, we called him Kirk, lived 3 doors down from me, and he was being recruited to play basketball at The Ohio State University, or the University of Cincinnati out of Mifflin High School. I remember seeing Coach Randy Ayers and Coach Bob Huggins walk out of his place. He ended up attending Xavier, and I recall watching him on ESPN2 when our cable wasn't off. I don't need to explain how and why being like Mike appealed to everybody with hoop dreams, but someone like Allen Iverson was so influential in the 90s and early 2000s that those around me had hoop fantasies. You could imagine yourself doing what he did. He was cool, he looked like us, he dressed like us. He was this average sized dude doing extraordinary things. Sure, he was never my favorite player, but he was like us. And me and my group of friends and a couple of classmates wanted to be point guards in the NBA. I should say, the NBA dress code aimed at AI didn't bother me as much as the King Griffey backwards hat thing, even though it was all so stupid and rooted in tradition. Picture any inner city and you'll see basketball courts everywhere. If not the whole court, then just the hoop itself. If you can't run 5-on-5, then you can work on your game playing 1-on-1 or just shooting by yourself. I mean, look at football. Two people can pass and run routes, work on tackling and breaking tackles. All you need is a ball and real estate, space and opportunity, and dope shoes. The shoes thing is interesting though, because many cite money, finances, and resources as to why black people don't play baseball, but we can afford dope shoes, multiple pairs of those things. Sure, baseball is expensive, but not too expensive for poor kids in the Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico or Cuba or Venezuela. Comedian Chris Rock, huge black baseball fan, makes similar points. I'll put a link to that video in the description below.
Can't tell me black kids can't afford baseball when everybody's buying Jordans for $300. That's 6 gloves right there. It's the game. It's old-fashioned and stuck in the past.
Plus, doesn't some of this defeat any notion that some say racistly about a reason why black participation in baseball being low is due to a lack of fathers in our communities? Something like, baseball is a tough sport that needs to be taught from father to son. Sure, I understand that hitting a curveball is hard, but is breaking down a 3-2 zone defense with dribble penetration in basketball easy? Quarterbacks reading the blitz, checking into the right blocking scheme, and audibling to the correct play to hot route a receiver into a gap in coverage is simple. Once upon a time, there was an idea that black men couldn't be quarterbacks. I would imagine that these ideas is a holdover from a pre-integrated Major League Baseball, a pre-integrated America. There seems to be a lot of things that are holdovers from decades ago in baseball. All in all, though, to answer the question, perhaps the reason why black people aren't at baseball stadiums is because we don't want to be there. We don't need to be there. Major League Baseball needs black people more than black people needs baseball. I mean, look at what we did for Crocs, TikTok, and popular music. Black people don't play baseball or softball because those games are slow and old and boring. It's not because we didn't have money. We figured it out in my neighborhood. Kids in what's considered the developing world make it work. It's not because our dads aren't involved. A neighbor of mine played NCAA Division I men's basketball and his father wasn't around either. Plus, there are more scholarships in college basketball and college football than there are in college baseball. And no, the game isn't too hard. Basketball and football are difficult too, but being raised in the inner city with all of those weapons without a father is harder. Let me be clear. It would be great if some 5'9" black kid with a lot of speed and great hand-eye coordination played baseball, getting a scholarship for college baseball and going to the majors where contracts are guaranteed and longer. But how great is it doing without us? See, rock and roll. Also, baseball may have a better farm system than basketball, and football is seemingly non-existent. I guess college football will be that, but yes, you could play professional baseball in multiple ways. So maybe the big deal with the lack of black people in the big leagues is that, again, black players used to be more prominent and dominant. Some of the greatest players of all time in Major League Baseball were black. This may be some of the reason why we don't have the same concern for other weapon sports. We never played lacrosse, tennis, hockey, and golf like that. Maybe we were kept from those sports. So I've wondered, and a lot of people have wondered, if Major League Baseball did a better job of marketing their players at all. A few black players, or even one black player, as I mentioned earlier, Mookie Betts, who could have played any sport professionally, by the way. He's that talented. Would this make a difference? It worked for the NBA with Jordan and Iverson. But then again, one transcendent golfer, Tiger Woods, didn't influence the youth or black kids specifically to play golf more often, at least not to the degree we thought would happen. And again, there could be systemic reasons for that, seeing how golf and country club admissions is an issue. Before I closed, Dodgers outfitter Mookie Betts earned his 6th All-Star Game selection this season and started in center field for the National League squad. Recognizing the huge platform, the superstar attended pregame warm-ups wearing that shirt with the message I mentioned earlier. But that wasn't all that Betts did that week. He managed to get on the mic and led the All-Stars in wishing Rachel Robinson, wife of Dodgers legend Jackie Robinson, a happy 100th birthday. According to this article, Betts didn't mince words about his role as a baseball player. He said, "Yeah, it's what I signed up for. It is what it is. I gotta embrace these types of things. It's something I've been working on doing. I used to kind of shy away from it. I think now it is my responsibility. Someone has to do it and I'll take on that ownership." Mookie then explained that Sportnet LA's Kirsten Watson, a black woman, was responsible for bringing his attention to the shirt online. He felt compelled to purchase one and wear it to Dodger Stadium for the high-profile event. But there isn't very much representation in softball for black girls and women either, but we're gonna be all right.